2,000 miles from the cornfield. President Dwight Eisenhower's words could not be more accurate when it comes to the world's ideas about farming. When you think of farming, what comes to mind? Do images of old men in bib overalls or cows happily grazing in sun-bathed green pastures pop into your head? While some of the stereotypes about farms might be true, there's a very serious lack of appreciation for what American farmers do for us every day. Do you know how your food gets on your plate for dinner and all the hard work it took to get it there? Farmers in America may play a bigger role in that than you might think. Did you eat breakfast this morning? If so, thank a farmer. What about lunch? Thank a farmer. And Miss Evans, of course. 2% of the American population comes from farming families, about 210,000 farms. These farms produce 80% of the food we eat every day. According to NPR.org, the United States exported $1.5 trillion worth of goods last year. About 8%, or $120 billion of which was agriculture related. Not only does this generate revenue for the country itself, it also creates the opportunity for jobs. 15% of working people in the United States work in some sort of agriculture-related industry. In planting time and harvest season, a farmer will finish his 40-hour week by Tuesday noon, and then, hanging from tractor back, put in another 72 hours. The words of Paul Harvey in his 1978 "So God Made a Farmer" speech highlight the hard work required to keep a farm running and profitable. For those of us born after 1978, you can also take a look at the song "Amarillo Sky" by Jason Aldean. Both Harvey and Aldean talk about how hard it is to run a farm when the cost of running the farm seems to always be rising and the price of what farmers are selling always seems to be dropping. Or, as former President John F. Kennedy put it, the farmer is the only man in our economy who buys everything at retail, sells everything at wholesale, and pays the freight both ways. Harvey and Aldean also illustrate how, despite the amount of work required to run the farm, most people that farm love what they do and couldn't imagine doing anything else. Farming is a labor of love. Love of the land, love of your family, and love of hard work. Farmers work sun up to sundown for little reward. Of every dollar you spend on food in the grocery store, a farmer might see, if they're lucky, 12 cents. A lot of what farmers produce is wasted as well. Imagine working back-breaking hours for very little pay, only to see what you've labored to produce end up in a trash can. 40% of all food that's produced in the United States goes to waste or is thrown away. In our society of buy more, save more, there's even more disconnect with the roots, unintended, of our food supply. Food that is not aesthetically pleasing or would look out of place in a bulk bunch of similar product is simply thrown away. $43.5 billion of food goes to waste every year in the United States alone. So next time you walk down the aisle of Walmart, Harris Teeter, or Lowe's Foods, and you start to grab the bulk bag to save a few cents, think about what those few cents are really costing you and the world around you. Wasting food is an insult to all the people that have worked hard to produce it. All of this became very relevant to me 5 years ago during my freshman year of high school. I had the opportunity to meet a man named Gene Lopp. Gene and his nephew Ronnie both work on a farm that has been in their family for 3 centuries. To put that in perspective, the Lopp farm has been in the same place with the same family longer than the United States has existed as a country. Gene was born in 1921 and started working on the farm at a young age. He worked on the farm and attended school until the outbreak of World War II, where he enlisted in the U.S. Navy to serve in the South Pacific. After returning from the war, Gene continued to work with his family while starting what would become a successful construction business. Gene is retired now and can do just about anything he wants, but he still chooses to spend every day the same way he has for the past 68 years. Waking up early, though not quite as early as the rest of us, and going to work on his farm. This summer I had the opportunity to work for Gene and Ronnie on their farm in Welcome, North Carolina. Not for any money, just because Ronnie told me that if I went and let him point at things for me to do after his heart surgery, he'd take me up to Speedy's Barbecue and let me get whatever I wanted. To this day, he still says that was the biggest mistake he's ever made. A lot of what I learned was specific to farming, like if a big thunderstorm blows through and knocks down all your corn stalks, you just have to go through with a shovel and stand them back up one by one. Or, when Gene makes you plant enough tomatoes to feed an army and they fall all over the ground, you just have to go through one by one with a few big stakes, a hammer and some string, and tie them back up. But a lot of what I learned was about life itself. You can't always worry about what has gone wrong or what could go wrong. Sometimes there's nothing better at 2 o'clock on a hot day than to sit down with some people that mean a lot to you, crack open a fresh watermelon, and talk about anything and everything in the shade until the sun moves a little further on in the sky and you can get back to work without melting. Sometimes you just have to shut up and work, even if you're miserable. To quote Ronnie Love, Thomas, if you spent half the time working that you spent complaining about working, you'd have had the job done at least an hour ago. But most importantly, I learned that money is very little in the grand scheme of things. Sure, there will always be a new computer, or a new cell phone, or a new pickup truck, or a new whatever it is you like, but driving around in a brand new Ram 3500, talking on an iPhone 6 Plus, could never make me happier than sitting on the tailgate of Ronnie's 15-year-old Toyota Tacoma, talking about Giants baseball or Panthers football while I waited for Gene to finish feeding his dogs. Or stopping by a friend's house to deliver some produce I had just picked, and smiling until my cheeks hurt as they picked through a basket of corn and peppers, telling me how nice everything looked. Because no amount of money can ever replace the feeling of working hard and seeing your work appreciated. Even though I haven't spent my whole life on the farm, I've already fallen in love. So next time you walk down the aisle of your local grocery store, take a moment to reflect on the foods you buy. Think about the men and women across the country that risk their livelihood providing the world with the food that it needs. Think about the money and hours spent to make food so easily accessible to you, and take a moment to thank everyone that had a hand in getting it there. Take a moment and thank a farmer.